Welcome back to B&B Studios, where Berner and Barthy will talk all things happening in the Central Coast Rugby competition. Good chat, good footy, good fun. Take it away, boys.
Thanks, Tomo, and welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the B&B Unplugging Central Coast Rugby podcast. Barthy, how was your week, mate? Where are you this week, actually?
Where am I? I'm in our nation's capital, brother. I'm down in Canberra for a conference regarding how sporting and community sport can impact the political landscape. So I'm down here as a guest speaker, and yeah, mate. So it's good start of the week. Not too cold down here, which is nice for a change.
Good stuff, mate. It's good to hear.
How's your week, pal?
Been good, mate. Bit of rain yesterday, which, luckily it held off over the weekend for a glorious day of rugby on Saturday, which was held at Carryong Oval. No men's games on the weekend, but absolutely awesome day down there at Carryong. So do you want to get into the results, mate?
Let's do it, mate. What a great day it was. Let's have a look.
I don't know what's happening with the internet down. Yeah, I don't know what's happening with the internet down there in Canberra, mate. There's a bit of a lag, but we'll deal with it anyway. We're usually, not rolling off the cuff anyway. Let's start with the first game, mate. So we had 6 games that were played. There was only 2 teams that only played one game. One of them was Lakes and the other team was the Razorbacks. So it was really a day that we sort of built it that Warrnambool could overtake and really jump ahead, but it turned out to be a bit of a different day, mate. And we'll get onto that in a sec. The first game, we had Avoca up against Terrigal. Avoca ending Terrigal's undefeated run at 27 points to 5. What'd you make of this?
Yeah. Mate, it was a good turnaround by the Sharks, and it was very much it mirrored the performance a few weeks ago when Terrigal sort of gave the Sharks a bit of a touch-up. Terrigal missing a couple of players, that's still no excuse, just like it was no excuse for the few weeks back. Terrigal had a few players out. That's why you have big squads. But I thought the performance by the Trojans was very un-Trojan-like. It was very much one out. They didn't use the expanse of the field, which is one of their strengths. So I thought it was a really well-deserved victory by the Avoca Beach women, and well done. 27 points to 5. It was a well-deserved victory, and I think that scoreline reflects the how the game went.
I agree with you there. I think it was dominant really by Avoca. See a couple of players out for Terrigal, but something that I will note in the first game, Avoca scored 5 tries, 1 conversion. We'll note that for the second game as well. On to the next game, mate, and well, we didn't really think it was going to be Hornsby's day. We didn't think this gala day was going to be anything, but it ended up being a Nala day, mate. Well, so this is we're going to turn this into Nala day. The weekend was known as Nala day because they completely flipped it around. Regardless of them having no numbers, their team was stacked, and they were back to the Hornsby of old. All the guns were back. Everybody that the Central Coast rugby community loves watching was on display for Hornsby on the weekend, and it was so good to see. And the girls have been listening. They've let us know that. We've broken bread with them as well. So, we had to give them a couple of gifts for shit canning them in the last few weeks and, being worried about them. But there's nothing to be worried about, mate. You should have seen them. Incredible. They got a win. First win, 51-0 over Wee Wee. What'd you make of it?
Mate, I thought they were very appreciative of our support that we've been giving them over the last few weeks. They just have a funny way of showing it. Well, look, mate, there's only one thing I've got to say, and that's to all those women who showed up. Where the bloody hell have you been all season? You're exactly right. That was the Nalas of old, and the Nalas that we love. Yeah, great performance, 51 points to 0. Fantastic. It was just good seeing some familiar faces back. I know certainly Jess Newen scored quite a few tries in that first game against Warwell. I think she got a hat-trick. Yeah, fantastic. Love the Nalas. And I love even more, Berner.
What do you
love 10 Nalas on the field. I love 10 Nalas on the field more than I love 4 Nalas or them ringing up and can't make it. But yeah, great comeback from the death, if you will.
Well, we actually tipped Wee to get their first win of the season because we didn't really know how Hornsby were going to show up. But Mate, not only 10 gnarlers on the field, there's 6 gnarlers on the bench. That's what you want. That's why it's gnarler day. The next game, mate, Razorbacks take on Warnervale. So, bit disappointing, I'll be honest with you, with Warnervale. In this game, I thought this was a real tight clash, and this was a chance for Warnervale. We've seen them be strong throughout the year, and whether they had a couple out, it looked like the Razorbacks had a couple out as well. No Lorna Martin, no Ellie Dark, so Razorbacks had a few out as well, and Razorbacks were really impressive. Very impressive. 74-0 victory, an absolute thrashing. Shani Mason scoring 6 tries and 7 conversions.
It was a really strong performance by the Roseback women. And you know what, Bernard, it has to be. With the rise and the resurgence of the Gnarlers, the Razorbacks only had one game, and it was a very important game against the Wildcats, because we put the Gnarlers out. We didn't think they had the numbers. Obviously, they've come back big and strong with 2 massive victories. But the size of that victory for the Razorbacks has done them enormous favours when it comes to for and against, because when things start to get up all tight in the next few rounds, and hopefully the Gnarlers continue on with their strength of numbers, then it's going to get extremely tight for those semi-final positions, and where your for and against will really come into play. So great performance by the Razorback women. Well done. Congratulations.
All right, on to game number 4. And I thought this was going to be the match of the day. Lakes looked ready to go, and they ended up getting the win over Avoca. They beat them a couple of weeks ago. So Avoca, fresh off a victory over Terrigal a couple of hours earlier, come up against the Lakes, and 26 points to 17. For me, it felt like that scoreline favoured Avoca. I thought Lakes were completely dominant. Probably the whole game. They left a lot of points out there. And for Avoca, they were just a different team than what played a couple of hours earlier. I think it was just that individual brilliance when you got, the players like they got. When you got Shani Waters and Staben and Grace as well, like they've got absolute weapons that can just break the game open at any moment. And that was really where their points came from. I think Lakes just completely outplayed them from start to finish for me.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I think also, too, the big effort an hour or so earlier against the Trojan women
definitely
had an impact.
Yeah,
and I think you saw that. I think you saw that in the second half, where the Lakes sort of dominated. But the thing that doesn't get seen, and what you only see, what you don't see on the scoreboard, like you alluded to, was the amount of opportunities that the Lakes created that they just didn't execute, or they didn't go through with drop ball, bad pass, whatever the case may be. They created an enormous amount of opportunities and converted probably 60% of them. So it was a well done to get the victory, but I think worryingly for the competition, or certainly for the top 2 positions, that I think Lakes have got a hell of a lot more left in them too. And I just got to, damn it, and her name is escaped me. I can't think of her name now. I think maybe Tilly, 15. She's a beast.
15.
For Lakes.
Oh, the names are all around everywhere on their team sheet.
Oh,
but yes, 15. I know who you're talking about. I'm sure Lakes can let us know who it is, because we are forgetting the name. But she's an absolute dynamo. She is so quick. We have mentioned it before on the podcast, so we'll have to find this again while Barthy's looking at it. On the weekend, you could tell there was a point. This was when it got really close. I think there was 2 points in it, and Lake sort of had the ball. And I was talking to Barthy, just saying, "What do you reckon? Is it Tia Duncan?"
Well, Tia Duncan, if Tia was wearing the 15, she was outstanding. Long dark hair, just strong. Just went into beast mode a couple of times with the speed.
She's so quick, and just so quick. That you were saying, she's down in all haunches, and I was like, well, you need to rest some players here, and you're like, nah, you leave her on the field. Her at 80% is still quicker than the field. Like, she's so quick. And you need those, obviously, speed players in your team, and playing 10. So obviously Avoca had played a game before, a very physical game, and played outstanding the first game, and just completely different side, obviously really feeling the effects of that earlier run. But Lakes, dominant in my mind as well. So that was a good shake-up, because you had two beating first with Avoca beating Terrigal, and then you had third beating second as well. So that's really good for that top three, that competition there. On to the next game, mate. Woy had a couple of injuries in their earlier game. Do you need to take that, mate, or you're right?
No, it's all right, mate. It's all right.
Woy, couple of injuries in their first game. So I think they had to get a couple of players to back up from other clubs here, which was good to see. But Terrigal completely convincing from start to finish, 67 points to 7. And it was a really good team performance from Terrigal. You can tell they were obviously gassed as well from playing earlier on and coming out after, on the sidelines for a little bit. So it's an interesting format, that Gala Day format. But something for me, Ellie, I think it's Ellie Tao, I think is the name. It does say name withheld. I'm pretty sure it was Ellie when she scooted away for a try at the end. And obviously, Woy haven't scored that many points in recent weeks. But seeing her scoot away and just the whole, I saw Lakes on the other side and also Warnervale, and then we had Hornsby there as well, and the whole crowd cheering them on. Just everyone getting behind Woy scoring the try. And you even saw with the conversion, there's a couple of Terrigal players that just sort of put their hands together. So even though it's incredibly competitive, everyone's respectful and well done, cheering on the underdogs, which is good to see. But I think it just a completely clinical performance by Terrigal, and it's a big win with what we thought it would be. Yeah. Anything else to add, mate?
No, mate. Nothing to add. It was a game that the scoreline was predictable. And the women did well. They scored another try, and they just keep showing up and battling away. So big ups and a lot of respect for the Hornsby, for the Woy women. They're having such a great time on the field. It's enjoyable to watch, and it's energizing to watch too. Just people, just at the purest, enjoying sport, and I loved it. Even though the scoreline doesn't look pretty, it just goes to prove that sport's more than it's more than a scoreline. So, outstanding. Well done, Woy, on what was a tough day for you. Lots of injuries, but they kept showing up and they did their best, just like you said. And then it all came down to Burner, the last match of the round, the day.
Well, it was only ever going one way. It's exactly what we tipped. It's going to be a Nala day. We said it from the start.
Nala's women.
Mate.
We love.
How good are the Nalas? Yeah, the official, unofficial team of the podcast this week. Well, actually, probably for the rest of the year. Until they lose anyway. I'm going to call it until they lose, because they might run. If they play like they did on the weekend, they might go undefeated for the rest of the comp. That's how good they were going. Callie Morris gets a hat-trick in the last game as well. She was absolutely outstanding. She is so good to watch. And Hornsby beat Warnervale 40 points to 5. So Warnervale just managing the one try throughout the day. For me, I thought Warnervale was a really good chance to really move up that competition ladder with the two games, but ended up being Hornsby, which were not the people that we thought were going forward. But another convincing day for the Nala women. Another convincing game, for the Nala women.
Tough day out for the Wildcat women. They were still enjoying themselves, but it looked like they just struggled to handle the pace of the game. Yeah. And the two teams that they came up against just played it at a tempo that they struggled to keep up with. And also when they got the opportunities with the ball, they were a little bit flat-footed, and it wasn't a good day from and the scoreline and the score results would suggest that. But they certainly are having a good time, and that's what it's all about. But mate, what a day for the ladder. And here's how the ladder stands, people. So at the end of that day, the Terrigal Trojans still lead the competition on 55 points. Avoca Beach sneaks some back a little bit. There are different teams with games in hand. We won't worry too much about that. Avoca Beach Sharks are on 50. The Lakes sneaking up here, Burner. 43 points they're on. Very important victory for them there. They could consider themselves half a chance of making that top two. Here's where it gets very, very interesting now. We've got the Razorbacks on 33 points. And we've got Hornsby on 30 points. The rejuvenated Nalas on 30 points. They're in striking distance now. The Wildcats are routed on 20, and Woy with that one bonus point. But I think, Berner, what we've got to look at now is towards the end of the season, where we've got 4 or 5 games left, 5 or 6 games left. It's really a case of when we talk about the Nalas, we saw the fantastic numbers that they had on Saturday, and some of the women that we've seen play before in the past, and we're having sort of this year off. hopefully it's just not a one out for them. I really do hope there wasn't just a, can you help us out this Saturday? Because, mate, we've said they are a class rugby outfit. And if they can stick around for the rest of the season, they're going to give this competition a real good shake. And we're going to see a good side like the Razorbacks or Lakes potentially miss out on a semi-final spot if the Hornsby women get their act together and show up in numbers like they did on Saturday. So very, very interesting and exciting times ahead for the women competition.
But even with the players that they had, they didn't seem like ring-ins. Like you go through their team, like Grace Barry, Annabelle Rogers, Charlie Clements, Angela Astley, Jess Newen, Callie Morris, Tala Thackeray. Like these are all players like Tiana Davenport. These are all players that we've seen week in, week out for them. So it's not like they're a team of ring-ins. This is what we think is the Hornsby side, but they were just all back. So we're hoping that that might be the case moving forward. The injuries are over. The European summers are over. And, mate, hopefully they are back on deck. But I think, from the Warrnambool perspective, they look like they were down in a few numbers on the weekend as well. And obviously that's not ideal when you've got 2 games in the one day because, as you see, Hornsby leapfrogging them, and obviously Razorbacks, that was a big game for them. We're trying to fit into that top 4 as well. So it might have just been a bit of a circumstance thing of Warrnambool with a couple out. But like you said, with them enjoying themselves, they did look like they were enjoying themselves on the side there. And Len caught up with a couple of players that were on the sideline as well for him, and they were having a good time and spoke really highly. Jacob Gall, who was one of them, who was an ex-Warrior player, and he said he's absolutely loving his time up at Warrnambool. Just with what the club's doing and how they've welcomed him and the culture up there. So shout out to Gawley and everything awesome that the Warrnambool Rugby Club are doing because they're doing awesome stuff up there. That'll do, mate. In summary, competitive day of rugby, but at the end of the day, it was a Nala day, mate. All right, well, let's get into round 13. We've gone from round 20 to round 21 to round 13, mate. So we'll keep going with the women's, and then we'll get on to the men's. So Razorbacks have the bye this weekend, so they will not be advancing any points.
2 points. That's 2 byes in a row.
It is 2 byes in a row. Avoca play Warrnambool at home. Now, I think for this game, and it might be a little bit like the men's, we have a lot of injuries. Especially in the women's, had a lot of injuries in the weekend. And in that second game where they were playing a couple of players down, they got a few more injuries. So it'll be interesting to see sort of how this game unfolds. But hopefully with all those girls that are getting down to training and their numbers, they can come through with a game and at least have sort of 10 on the field for the weekend. So, look, they're up against an Avoca side. I'd be very disappointed with how they played last week. So I think I can only see this going one way, mate. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so too, pal. I know the Wildcats have had a few sort of players up playing for the Wildfires up in the Newcastle comp. I think the Wildcats are going to be a real nuisance value when they're at full strength, and I think that's where they're going to be for the rest of the season. You can pretty much, they're not going to make the semi-finals, but they can make some teams above them work bloody hard for their points, and I think they've got the capabilities of doing that, especially when they're at full strength. But I see Avoca Beach will win this match.
All right. I don't know if you heard me, but Avoca's playing Woi, mate.
All right.
But that leads on to the next game, right? Just on what you said, that probably leads into the same thing. Warrnambool are hosting Terrigal, mate. So just say the same sentiment. It's probably going to be the same sort of outcome. So what do you reckon?
You'd be surprised, but I don't listen to you all that often.
I think you heard W and you go, yeah, probably like a Warrnambool.
Mate, I zoned out.
Thanks, mate. That makes me feel really good. That's why I love doing this.
Imagine what listeners are doing.
That's why I love spending my Monday nights with you, just to talk, and you ignore
it. Yeah, mate. We're going to get we're getting flogged by the Avoca Beach Sharks.
Yeah, and Warrnambool and Terrigal battle of the Blue Filth. What's happening there?
What, the Wildcats have got some nuisance value for the rest of the year. They can really.
I'll just cut what you said 2 minutes ago and just input it here, right?
Cut and paste. Terrigal Trojans will win. But I'll tell you one thing in the fair dinkum department. If Terrigal a little bit under strength like they were on Saturday, if they play the same style of rugby like they did on Saturday, I give the I give the Wildcat women at full strength. I give them every chance to knock them off. If they've got April Radford and a few of the girls who are up playing in the Newcastle comp available for the Terrigal game, and Terrigal put out another performance like they did last week, then I'm giving the Wildcat women every chance of knocking off the Trojans.
Yeah, I think Terrigal for me, and I think Terrigal had a lot of players out in the weekend as well. No Lufay, obviously the big inclusion.
Yeah, but
that's why.
Mate, that's why you have a rugby squad. That's why you have a squad of players.
I know, but I went down there to see Lufay. I went down there to see our captain of our B&B 15. I didn't see her, so that was obviously a disappointing thing for me personally. I'm still a little bit hurt by that. Last game, mate, and this is going to be a cracker with how this plays out. The Lakes hosting Hornsby at Gosford Rugby Field. Lake's second home ground.
Hosting Lakes.
Hosting
Hornsby at Gosford.
Yeah.
Right. Well, good game for the Nailers. They don't have to travel as far. This will be a cracker. This will be worth the price of administration to go down and see. I think it's going to be a really good Hornsby at full strength. If they win, they're in the top 4.
Well, they're one game behind the Razorbacks as well. So this game puts them on even playing field in terms of games played. If they win this weekend, they are in the top 4. Yep. So despite shooting them a couple of weeks ago and burying them, they got a chance of being in the top 4 this week.
Well, Ange Miranda was very appreciative of our thoughts on their side, wasn't she? We love you. She was. Razorbacks for me. Razorbacks.
Mate, what are you? Lakes are playing Hornsby. Who's Razorbacks got a bye? They're not playing. They haven't played for 2 rounds.
Oh mate, you know what it is.
It's Canberra. It's the Canberra weather, mate. What are you doing down there?
Too much MSG in this stuff. I'm pinging off my head. I'm full of MSG.
Walk fit.
That's what it is. What do you call that? I think a box of noodles or noodle box or something.
I don't know what's in it, mate, tonight. Well, we've told the Nailers that we'll tip them this week, but are you going to go against them? Are you going to take it? You're going to go back on your word?
No. Stuff the Nailers. It was a flash in the pan. They're no chance. My Lakes women have got them. Got you covered.
All right, I want to do the right thing by the Nailers and cover them. But also, when I went over, I went over and saw Jess over at the Lakes, Jess Maroney over at the Lakes, and she also said a similar thing, like, you're going to tip us this week? So I said, yeah, I will, but you come up against the Nailers, so it's going to be a bit hard. You go with Lakes, I'll go for the Nailers, and then we've covered both sides. I think this is going to be a cracker game. If that same Nailers side goes up, this is easily the match of the round. This is actually quite pivotal in terms of these two teams and where they go in the season, because this is going to be a cracker game for them. Let's get on to the men's, mate. So first game, I'll say the names very slowly for you, and so you can give you an accurate tip. The Razorbacks are hosting Lake Macquarie.
Razorbacks.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
I think it'll be a lot.
Yep, I think it'll be another blowout scoreline there, especially with them being at home. Next game, Avoca hosting Wee Wee. Again, a little bit concerned on this one from recent scorelines or the scorelines in recent weeks. It's at Avoca. Wee Wee, you got to travel. I know they're down on trips. They got a lot of injuries as well. So I am just quietly a little concerned as to the amount of players are going to turn up for this day and the amount of people that are playing seconds that might have to run out for first. And on a personal note, I'm a little bit concerned that my record will be broken on the weekend of 133 points. That'll be disappointing. I obviously hold that very proud and very dear. But I think, mate, Avoca are absolutely humming. I think that their whole side is just, is gone from strength to strength this year. And I'll be honest, if they do play, I think that record is being broken. If Fionn Henderson-Foley plays. If he doesn't play, no one's kicking goals, so it's just they're going to go up by 5s. That's it. So that's the only way I can be safe.
The one thing we know is Mitch McGrath won't be kicking goals, don't we?
No, he won't be. No, he won't be at all.
Can't Sam Everett get a hold of us too. Clearly, he's not listening anymore.
I can see why, because you're tipping the wrong clubs.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a tough day there. So we'll see how the week eventuates. But we're trying to pull through what they can, but if you don't have the cattle, it's going to be a little bit hard, which is disappointing for the competition because, everybody needs a game. Avoca needs, you need to be playing rugby. It's, forfeiting's obviously something you don't want to do, or, not even forfeiting, but just having the same players run out. But obviously, club doing what they can there to try and, get everybody together. But similar situation to what Lake Macquarie are in, I'd imagine. Gosford hosting the Lakes, mate. This will be interesting.
Yeah. I'm seeing the Red Devils going from strength to strength and really sort of putting in performances heading towards the semi-finals. It's a Centurions Day on Saturday, so a big day, old boys' day for the Red Devils. So all things point to a big day at Gosford Rugby Field, and I think it will be a great day for the club, and I think they will get victories, certainly in the first Premier 1 fixture. I see Gosford getting a good victory here, and it wouldn't surprise me if the score blows out a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah, okay. I think it's been a hard one with the Lakes. They've been in the contest for so many games, but it's just that last sort of 20 minutes they seem to be, the scoreline blowing out with them. I'm with you on that one. I think it's going to be a Gosford win regardless, but I think it's going to be that the Centurions, they really, gets the crowd there, gets the support there, and makes that day a lot more special for a lot of those players. And they'll be up for that as well. They've got a few in that club. That'll be celebrating the 100 games. So, yeah, for Lakes, I suppose there were so many moments at the start of the year where we thought, well, they're losing by a couple. I hope this doesn't continue because they're such a competitive side. But as the season wears on and those sort of defeats keep coming in that, finals, you look at it now and go, okay, well, we're probably out of a shot now. You hope the players don't drop off as well and the scorelines blow out to worse than what they could because they got some absolute weapons, especially their back line. They've got such good players. They've got Vayanuku, Hutchison Walters. They got really good players in there that are really key to build on for next year. So I hope they all stay together and they put in a good performance on Saturday. But like you, mate, Gosford for me. And the last game of the week, sorry, mate, I was just looking at Hornsby's for and against. Hornsby had the bye, by the way. Last game of the week is the Battle of the Blue Filth. This will be a cracker. It's Warnervale against Terrigal. Warnervale have been humming. Yeah, the Filth off. This is the first genuine chance Warnervale could get the tag of the Filth. They're at home. It's going to be a massive day for them. They've got had a lot of lead into this game with buys and I suppose easier games. They will be raring to go. Everyone will be fresh. They'll have their best team available and they'll be ready to take on Terrigal. I'm tipping Warnervale here. It's Terrigal's Terrigal. We know that. No one will be surprised with the victory. But I think if Warnervale is ever going to upset and they haven't beaten any of the top sides yet. That's been the problem with Warnervale. That's why they're sitting fifth. If they're going to have a crack, it's going to be this weekend. They've been gearing up for it as a club. They know it's Terrigal coming, and this is their first chance. And it'll be a huge day if they can get the victory over Terrigal here. I think it'll be a close one, but I think there's a chance Warnervale can knock them off if they play their style of rugby and play it well. And the key thing for Warnervale is they get their discipline in check because if they don't, Dankich is going to punish them the whole day.
Well, by all reports, and we touched on it when they met in the first round of the comp, the first sort of few games, nothing but absolute praise for the Warnervale club by everyone involved in Terrigal. And Terrigal sort of just ran away with it in the last sort of few moments. It was an extremely tight game. And I agree with everything you just said. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see if the Wildcats could come away with the victory. I think they've proven throughout the season that they are definitely capable. But one thing that I'm not convinced about is they have yet structured their discipline in regard to their around the tackle contest, and they are conceding far too many penalties. I haven't seen that really reduce. And with that, you cannot afford to give Terrigal a sniff. Not a iota of a chance. You've got to keep them out of the game. And if it is a tight game and it is a tight contest like they have been previously, it's going to be those penalties are going to be the difference. Adam Dankett slotting three, Terrigal going in there with a performance to come away with the points. I think that'll be the difference. And I think Terrigal will win, but they will win on the back of Warnervale's discipline, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think I sort of liken this game to probably about 4 years ago, maybe, where Hornsby upset Terrigal at the Haven. It was something along the lines like 20-18 or something. It was a real close one. But Tavita Piacala is the number 8 and the captain for, or not the captain, sorry, but number 8 for Warrnambool. He was inspirational in that they played such physical rugby the whole day, and they basically bashed Terrigal into submission. You know, Terrigal obviously just keep accruing points on the scoreboard, but they were physically more dominant, but they were disciplined, and that was the style of rugby they had to play against Terrigal, and they did on their home soil. And I think this is something that can happen this weekend as well. I'm going to tip the Wildcats, mate. I reckon they're a genuine chance this weekend. It's going to be an absolute cracker up there at Wollongara this weekend. Well, let's get into the ladder then, mate. So just rounding it off, Avoca sit first on 49 points. Terrigal in second on 44 points. Razorbacks third on 42. Bit of a gap now. Gosford in fourth on 34 points. There's an 8-point gap between fourth and third. And Warrnambool sit 3 points behind on 31 in fifth spot. Then we have a gap of 13 points to the next place team, which is Hornsby. They're on 18. And then we got Lakes on 13, Woy on 7, and Late Macquarie, Duck, Egg. So still that gap really between Hornsby and Warrnambool. Hornsby obviously not playing this weekend as well. So I think a win from Warrnambool this weekend would really basically end it for Hornsby. There's with only 5 games left after this weekend. So that's the games, mate. Let's get into the other stuff. Now on to that other stuff, mate. What do you got?
Well, thanks to Exquisite Exterior Cleaning, we've got our wash out of the week, our wash up of the week, a clean up of the week, whatever it is. And it's going to a combination of sides here, to be honest, Bernard. It's going to, I can't remember who they are now. It's going to Warrnambool and it's going to Woolworth. They are getting it as a combination effort. They are both being awarded that because of the shellackings they copped at the hand of our Nalas on Saturday. So they can win, they can share the Exquisite Exterior Cleanup of the Week. So that's...
And Barthy, that shellacking, you liken that shellacking to the shellacking that Carl can, give to a dirty patio or a bit of brickwork or external brickwork or something with a high pressure hose. Is that what you're saying there?
Absolutely. There's not too much work that Carl can't do and can't clean up. And what are you also doing, people, if you haven't taken advantage of it? If you mention that you listen to the B&B podcast, he gives you a massive 15% off, which is fantastic during these times. So big ups and thank you to Carl for his generosity in that regard, not only supporting the podcast, but also supporting the listeners as well. So you need some cleaning up done around your business, around home, whatever the case may be. It's not just pressure gurneying, it's a whole variety of different services. So get a hold of Carl from Exquisite Exterior Cleaning. Say you've heard him through the podcast, and he'll give you some extra off as well. So thanks to Carl for your support, and congratulations to the Wildcat women and the Woy Lions women for sharing that award for getting flogged on Saturday by our Nalas.
Our Nalas, mate. Our Nalas.
Yeah, our Nalas.
Well, my Nalas, because you're not tipping them, and they won't forget that as well. They'll make comments on it. Hopefully they do. They know who the traitor is and who the loyal one is, mate. My Nalas. Is that it, mate? Anything else?
Yeah, something else, mate.
All right.
We've spoken about long, about the international listenership to the podcast. But it's also time to talk about the podcast that goes interstate. And I want to give a shout out to a fantastic family from Tasmania, the Power family. In particular, I want to give a shout out to Tilly, Layla, and Xander. I caught up with them on Sunday and haven't seen them for a few years. Fantastic to see them. They are great human beings. I used to kick around with their mum and dad many, many years ago, and still like to when I get the opportunity. I promised them I'd give them a shout out in the podcast, so I've done that. Unfortunately for them, they've had to listen to the whole lot of this rubbish. Give them a shout out. They're probably not even going to hear it because they're not listening anymore. But to Tilly, Layla, Xander, Jeff and Amber, I absolutely loved catching up with you guys on Sunday night. You are awesome people and good stuff.
Awesome, mate. I do want to give good stuff. I do want to give a quick one. I saw the Razorbacks have got their long lunch, and just it's absolutely stacked. Probably better than the guests they had last year, mate. Obviously, they've listened to a little bit of feedback, probably from yourself. I just think it was poor interviewing on your behalf, but they've moved on to other guests. So Friday, the 11th of August, they've actually got Drew Mitchell, Matt Giddo, and Adam Ashley Cooper. So that should be a cracking day. So if you want to go to that, it's at Rimba RSL Club. You can go onto the Razorback socials. You'll see all the info on there. But having Drew Mitchell, Matt Giddo, and Adam Ashley Cooper, mate, that's a pretty dynamic duo. And you probably think they interview themselves, so your services aren't needed after your disastrous performance last year.
I was going to say, you know what? Funny, we haven't actually heard. We haven't heard from the Razorbacks this year for our emceeing skills, our hosting skills. But that might have something to do with some controversy.
Good stuff. And well done to Razorbacks as well for getting those guests. That's obvious. That's massive to get those three people. No, Adam Ashley Cooper, obviously a former Rimba Razorback as well, but that's good for the Central Coast rugby community to be able to go and see those players and have a day on the beers with them as well. So that's awesome. That's all from me, mate. Are we all done?
Yeah, we're all out here. Let's get it.
Good stuff. Round 13 this week. Get down to your locals. Shout out to Carryong as well and Lee in the canteen for hooking us up with some amazing red frogs. We'll see if anyone else in the Central Coast can actually better those red frogs. I don't know if they can. That's it, guys. See ya.